Welcome to Self-Perfected.
And when wait till you there's the recording, baby.
Sick.
It's happening. Oh shit, this is on it. Okay.
Hey everybody,
Hi everyone.
we're live. The sea
Cool.
god is with us.
Always.
presence
She's,
can
she's
always be
with
felt.
us.
She's always amongst us.
I am omnipresent.
Omniprecious.
What was that? Omniprecious?
She's always precious.
Omniprescient.
Oh,
It's
omnipresent.
true.
I
It's
meant
true.
to say
She can see all the. She can see all the futures.
present, yes.
Yo, Prussia.
Oh, omnipression.
Yeah, Prussian.
Precious, like the movie Precious, but based on the book by Sapphire.
Is that her name? Sapphire? Is that a real name?
You went real deep on that one.
You guys don't remember that joke? What was that from? Like Family Guy or something? There was a movie called Precious about a fat black woman.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that movie. Yeah.
And then I don't remember what show, but they kept referencing it. Like, oh, you mean like the movie Precious based on
By
the book by
yeah.
Sapphire? Yeah.
Yeah.
Some shit
Sounds like a
that
Family Guy joke.
kind of thing.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
That's a
lots
great way to
happening.
start a podcast. Yeah.
Uh,
These are the most
I
important
wonder if
things.
Family
let's-
Guys
let's-
got canceled by now.
Let's jump into like the insignificant stuff, like the small changes like in the copes and like
Yeah. Speaking of Family Guy,
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
I did that on purpose.
I've got a +1.
Yeah.
Well,
What's your
Tell
plus
us about
one?
your +1.
What's your +1,
Had
Cameron?
a baby.
Oh, that's a real
Woo!
Wait, you had a baby? Just
Oh.
kidding.
Had a baby, man.
No.
I
Literally
identify
cutting
as
edge science.
having had it.
Oh, okay. How'd you get it out?
Did it hurt?
I had a surrogate. I used a surrogate.
Your
That's
I
wife?
really
identify
popular
as
these days.
I identify as female and as the wife, and I used a surrogate mother to birth my child, which is
Mm.
technically my wife, but
Do you guys? Oh man, that's
yeah,
fun.
it's complicated. But dude, I saw
Sounds
this thing. I
complicated.
was watching this random clip while I was doing some work on the computer the other day. It was Gavin McInnes. He's hilarious, and they were watching this TikTok video, and it was like there was like different TikTok videos, but there was this one of this guy, and he was like your typical fucking like Portland hippie guy. It was like I've seen this guy before.
So Cameron, yourself from 50
It was me
years ago.
back in 2007.
Gotcha.
But he
Oh,
was sitting
15
there, and
years,
his
I
girl,
nailed that
his,
shit.
his girlfriend's off on the side, right? Or I guess it's girlfriend. And they're like, "What pronouns do you identify as?" And he goes, and you should see his face. He's like, "My pronouns are they, them." And then you hear his girlfriend go, "What?" And he goes, and she goes, "Are you having a realization right now?" Like this cackle, fucking like insane, like. And he's like,
That laugh makes me so uncomfortable.
my gender is to be determined. And it's just so fucking pathetic. And like the guy, it looks like he's like fucking, he's probably on drugs. It was really sad.
I would explain
and,
it more.
and like the commentary by Gavin McInnes and the other guy was just like, wow, this guy is like totally destroyed. They're like, this is the most dark fucking thing we've ever like shown on our show, right? But that
Yeah,
really
that's
leads us
pretty dark.
into kind of what we were going to talk about. Anyways, we actually planned something to talk about this.
Well,
time.
hold on.
We just started talking, and it was what we wanted to talk about, and then it was like, oh, this is good. We should talk about that.
This was the
Yeah.
original idea of the podcast, is like being a fly on the wall of like the crazy shit that we talk about. But not
Sure.
crazy shit. It's just like, how do we support people to the next level? We're like, man, why are we saying this to each other? We should be saying this. sharing this with people.
Think about this, right? Like, why are there people in the world having that type of like conversation when meanwhile like Russia's invading Ukraine and like children are being blown up by fucking bombs?
But it's relevant.
Why is that the
There
situation?
is a connection.
Yes.
Mitch, can you check your microphone? I don't think you're using it. But
Just
real quick
for
now.
the sake of everybody wants to see.
Yeah, exactly. Let's bolster the fact that Cameron had a child on Cameron and Katie had a child on 02 February 22 2022. And look at the YouTube video if you guys aren't watching.
Oh,
the
little
video.
baby.
Oh my god. That's
That's
the
such a
cutest-
great photo.
That's the
Oh.
He's
He kind of looks
smiling.
like you, Cameron.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's like a little mini Max. It looks
I still
everything
don't
looks
get
like
that.
Max.
I still
That's
don't
pretty
get.
cool.
Muge is so funny. She'll see the fucking ultrasound and she'll be like, "Oh my god, it looks like Asif here and looks like Melat here." I'm like, "How are you seeing this shit?"
No, like she's from Turkey, and so she's programmed differently. So everyone she like looks like a lizard to her. So she's just like that's how she
turkeys-
sees people. They look like skeletons.
Do turkeys eat lizards?
Oh no, I wasn't thinking about it like that.
No,
But
Turkish.
yeah, they would fucking tear a lizard up.
What?
The
Yeah.
I thought that
embryology
was
If
the
you threw,
joke. I
if
don't
you threw a
know.
lizard in the
Very
turkey pen, they would just be
reptile.
like going to town on it. Yeah,
You
Well,
just
it
win.
depends on the
You
size of
guys
the
from
lizard.
Turkey. She sees people like lizards.
Why?
it's because
yeah.
the birds are evolved from reptiles, and so it's kind of like this rivalry, and they don't want the reptiles to ever dominate again. So the birds will just destroy those things. Man.
and
I have
that's
no idea what to
and
follow.
that's how
here.
history books are made. So, anyways, congratulations, man. Number 3. That's really awesome. The fleet, the squad grows. Second wave, baby.
Let's
And
go.
yeah, the fun fact for all you angel number lovers, we like to keep all the fans satisfied. So that was February, so that's 02, and then on the 22nd, and then it was 20, so that's 20, so it's 20 because it's 2022, so it's 2022. So you have
Oh, if
02,
only it was
22.
2,222.
Then it would have been a perfect baby.
And,
Need to
Just gotta wait
and,
200
Could have waited
years.
200 years. Yeah.
and who pointed it out, Mitch or Drake, when he said it's also
Oh,
on
it's Tuesday.
Tuesday, like
And
TWO,
literally,
Tuesday.
it took her 2 pushes,
Oh, that's
Wow.
true. It did take her
Wow.
2 pushes. Yeah.
Is his name too?
and he has 2 testicles and 2 penises.
And 2 nipples. That's great. So there
Do
you go.
everything,
Miracle baby. Yeah.
and he's the second boy.
Whoa.
Oh. Wow.
Is there any more?
Wow.
He has
his-
2 eyeballs.
2 eyeballs.
yeah.
From what I can see. I don't
2
know. Maybe he's
arms,
got a third eye.
2
too.
legs.
So
Looked like he
type
had 2
2 2
nostrils.
type 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 in the chat, and I'll give you 2 cents.
And
Come
it's
on,
coming
7
up on this one.
watchers. Let's see your 222.
Imagine if we had 2 watchers.
I
how
think
great
5
that
of you
would be.
can please leave the chat, so we only have 2.
Kevin, you're gonna be out 14 cents.
That's crazy. No, he meant like give my 2 cents, like
Yeah,
Oh,
my bullshit opinion kind of thing.
I'll give you my 2 cents.
Gotcha.
Mm.
Oh, we got
Uh,
one.
that's cool.
Aaliyah says 2222.
Shout out Elias.
Not enough twos.
That's it.
It's not enough twos.
That's
You
it.
need,
That's
like,
it. That's all we got.
Put it in
Wow.
binary, so it's like 010101010101010101010.
I saw this random video pop up on my YouTube recommendations, and it was like how like depictions of angels as they're actually described in the Bible. And they were like insane looking, like they were like covered in eyeballs and shit. I mean, I was like, holy
They like
fuck,
look for,
they're not all
they
pretty
look
and
like
beautiful.
someone. They look like someone from Portland, Oregon.
They look like no, they look like fucking like demons from hell. It's crazy. And I'm like, dude, that's literally what they would have looked like. They would not have
Yeah.
been like they've been
Like
crazy.
it's not gonna look like beautiful men.
See,
with
God, can you
wings.
find this and share the screen? I really want to see what this looks like.
Oh, if we share the screen, that's gonna be big troubles for converting the video, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
We
usually.
transcend that.
Okay, just draw a mental picture from me. You said 100
Yeah,
eyeballs.
Christine, can you just draw a picture and
just read the Bible, guys.
read the
Read the
Bible?
Bible. They should do a
Yeah.
manga of the Bible. They probably have that.
A manga,
Oh, actually,
like Jesus
uh,
flipping the tables. Well, blam.
we were cleaning out my grandmother's house, and in there is a graphic novel of the Bible that was mine when I was a kid. And so like I remember having this thing, and it was graphic. Like it wasn't something a child should have.
Like when they're circumcising and shit.
Do you guys ever see that graphic novel?
it
Do you
had,
remember
it
that?
had an image of Gaetan in the novel.
Do y'all remember that graphic novel Mouse?
Oh yeah. Wait,
Where's
where-
mouse?
Where it was like about the Holocaust and stuff?
Yeah, that one. Okay, yeah. That.
And I was
that's
just thinking, like, if the Bible were a manga, like a choose your own adventure manga, and like depending on your choices, you either go down that road, or if you like choose Jesus as the savior, then you like go down more like a Dragon Ball Z sort of like Super Saiyan, Super God sort of thing.
Hey, that reminds me of Goosebumps. You remember Goosebumps?
Yes.
I never actually
Yes.
read them because I don't
Too
know
scared?
why.
There was
But
a
I remember
TV
you
show.
could like decide your adventure.
Speaking
That'd
of
be
weak men,
interesting.
Speaking of
What's
what?
Weak men. Too scared to read Goosebumps. That's why this
Hey, I
generation has
wasn't
gone to
scared,
shit. They didn't grow up
Cameron.
with Goosebumps.
I
That's
just
it.
couldn't read. Okay.
Oh, true.
No,
You're
Also,
like,
we-
am I supposed to be scared? What does it say?
Goosebump.
you know that meme of like Bobby from King of the Hill, and he's got a sign on the window, and it says like, if those kids could read, they'd be so upset.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
I love that one. That's one of my favorites.
Mm.
But yeah, speaking of weak men, we were just, well, Asif was just telling us about this video that you had shared with us, the Putin video, where they're talking about how Putin, well, I guess, a reporter asked him, why are all your opponents imprisoned, poisoned, or dead? And his
you
response,
could tell it was like she was probably so proud that she stood up to the tyrant and asked him this question. And it's like,
to be honest, I think I would have a hard time asking somebody that question, like, asking Putin that question.
would you have a hard time asking Biden that question?
I think he would have a hard time understanding anything I said. I'd be like, hey, buddy, why are you always like going off topic, rambling? Are you okay?
But the fact that they're able to stand up there and ask that question,
yeah,
implies that their statement is bullshit.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Are they going to go to fucking China and ask that question?
Mm-hmm.
They can't even.
That's what I'm
They
saying.
can't even say, like, their mic would be cut off. They'd be like, you're escorted out of the room.
Right.
You're done.
Because basically they said, why are all your guys in prison and stuff? And like this, the thing was 8 months ago. And it was interesting because he brought up the fact that there was organizations that had been deemed extremist or whatever, because they were teaching people how to make Molotov cocktails and they were promoting rioting and stuff like that. And he was like, we saw what happened in the Black Lives Matter protests. And he's like, we sympathize with the US, but we don't want that to happen here. We're not going to allow it. So he's like, if you're promoting like rioting and stuff, we're not going to allow that. And then he was also explaining how there's groups that it's like they're banned from running for office. That's what she was saying. Like, you're banning your political opponents from running for office, because like there are groups that the United States openly supports, and the US is a claimed adversary of the country of Russia. And he's like, those groups are considered as foreign agents in our country. That'd be like a Russian propaganda group coming into the US and trying to run for office. Of course, they'd be like, you can't fucking do that.
Yeah.
And so like his point, and then he also made the point about he didn't specifically say it, but it was clear he was referring to the January 6th thing.
Mhm.
Although, was that 8 months ago? Or yeah, I guess it would have been over a year ago.
been.
Yeah, so that
Yeah,
definitely was in the time frame. And because he was making this point of like how many people were political dissidents over there, and now there's like 400 people in prison, right, or awaiting trial with up to 20-year potential prison sentences because they were out there protesting at the Capitol and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so basically his point is my point is not about defending him. It's just he was putting the point back to the reporter of like, you're kind of inflating, or what's like they're using polarizing language on purpose to make him seem like this evil guy when literally the same things are happening in our country.
Yeah.
And it's just the normal course of business. So it's like clearly a way, it's like how you say it, right? And it reminds me kind of where it's not the same exact situation, obviously, but it's kind of like where you always hear about this guy like getting aggressive with his wife or whatever, when you don't see behind the scenes like the constant nagging and talking shit to him every single day and so forth, which so it doesn't justify what he does if he like fights or something or gets aggressive physically. It's just that's how men, when they're pushed to a certain point or they allow that irritation to build up, they express themselves in that way. Women do it a different way. They scheme and they connive and they make plans that they get you back like 3 years fucking later. So it's a different dynamic, but my point is it's always a blame on the one who's aggressive. Another example is when people are depressed, right? And then if you look at you ever heard of that emotional vibration scale?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
like
man.
where you're trying to get to bliss.
Right. But just look at it as an actual description of the range of human emotions.
Okay, yeah.
You have at the very bottom, like somebody maybe Sea God can look it up. What's at the very bottom? I think it's like you're dead.
It's a
Okay.
depression, like
But that's the basic one at the bottom, right? But what's above that?
I think it's like
Anger?
apathy,
oh,
right? At the very bottom. Like you feel
It might be
nothing.
apathy, but then it's like anger, and then
Right. And so
switches
if you
up
can get a
to
person
neutral.
to start moving from depression, what are they going to naturally pass through?
Anger.
But then as soon as they start getting angry, if you're like, hey, stop that, you're bad, then you're basically just having them suppress and go right back down to depression. Rather than do that, then go through the anger part.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you see that pattern with teenagers, right? I don't know how I got off on this topic, but
So here's the real point.
Yeah.
If I could encapsulate the things that we want to talk about, this is what maturity looks like. This is what we're talking about: male maturity. We'll talk about female maturity. We'll talk about system maturity, because everybody who's reacting to what's going on in the world, it's like when you accept, for example, a flawed system like capitalism. The maturity of capitalism is that. Like what you're accepting within capitalism is, oh, no competition at the top. And then we're like, hey, why is it that you're trying to remove competition at the top, Putin? And he's like, what? This is what you all fucking agreed to.
yeah, it's like, why are you going to war? Like, it's like, guys, that's the fucking end result of economic war, and then you have physical war. Like, come on, guys.
Okay.
We do this every like 40 years. We know. Come on, what are you talking about?
That's what I wanted to bring up. So in the Kim Iverson video, right, she's talking about how she had a Russian friend, lived in Russia, saw how bad it was, moved to the US, and lived in the US and was like, I'll never go back to Russia. And then went home to visit friends or family or whatever, for whatever reasons, ended up having to stay in Russia. And now she's in Russia and she's in Moscow. And she's like, oh, it's changed a lot. It's like a major European city. And the point that she was making was because of this pipeline that Russia's building and other pipelines that they built and how much energy they produce for Europe in general, and how much more they're looking to produce for Europe. It's like they've gotten to grow economically, and they've gotten to the place where they went from basically being, second class, third class, whatever nation, to now they're coming up into, hey, we're on par with the rest of the first world, essentially, right? And so it's almost like saying by the US's response to shutting down their pipeline, it's like almost like saying you're not able to pass this economic threshold. You're not able to come back in here. In fact, you should go back. You just spent all these billions of dollars, however much, to make this pipeline. Now go back to your poverty, essentially, right? And it's this real threat of like economic disaster, and what I mean by that is everyone.
Is this not the exact same story about how World War II happened and Hitler rose to power?
Yeah.
So you had World War II, they devastated Germany. They had this charismatic guy who like fucking led them back and then tried to fight everybody and fight the system and fight everybody. It's like the same fucking story.
Yeah.
So you're always looking for, and now they're already making the comparisons about Hitler and Putin and all this stuff, right? And it's like, just to be clear to everybody, we're not defending Russia. We're not defending Putin.
Right.
Like war is fucked. Like it's not the solution. It's never the solution. It's not a solution. It is just going to lead to more conflict.
What I'm pointing out is everyone's starting point is survival. And so now you're essentially taking away, and we're doing this all the time on micro and major scales, of taking away the survival of others for our own quote unquote survival.
Right.
That's the problem within our system, is that we are competing for survival.
Right.
And we don't have to.
But here, so here's the major problem, though. I see this is why it might sound like we're defending, or for me anyways, it might sound sometimes like I'm defending the point, but just give the other side, which is when you threaten someone's survival, what do you expect them to do?
Right.
Fight back.
Fight back.
Yeah.
Now the problem that I see is that our leaders, I say our meaning I'm in America, right? In the West, whatever you want to call it, that's what we identify as. They're not being honest about that. They're just saying, look at this guy. He's this crazy guy. He wants us to just take over the world, because they don't want to be honest about the fact that they're not treating everyone equally as if they have equal value. They're not considering the people of Russia. They're not considering the people of Ukraine. I mean, it's kind of pathetic when I see these like, oh, pray for Ukraine bullshit. And it's like, obviously it's not cool. It's tragic. It's sad. It's disgusting. It's pathetic that people are having to flee their homes and they have children and all this is going on. So it's not that there's no empathy for that, but to sit here now and go pray for Ukraine when how long has this conflict been brewing?
Years, apparently, like decades.
And like you're pointing out, it's the result of competition for survival. And then you have everybody in the world participating in that and not changing it, not changing themselves, not wanting to do anything to change any of that, making every excuse in the book. And then at the end, when the conflict occurs, be like, oh, how dare this guy? I pray for Ukraine. It's so sad. It's so tragic. It's like they're literally just jerking off on the emotional energy. They're watching a TV show. It's like you're watching Game of Thrones and you're getting sad because your favorite character is getting attacked or something. But you never, but it's just not real to you.
Yeah.
Because if it was real, you'd be looking at every single day, what can you practically do to change yourself and to change the system? And that seems impossible when you don't have any tools to do it, and when you don't have a plan, and when you don't have principles. So you just, oh, it's a different TV show now. Like we were watching Pandemic for the past 2 years, and now we're watching War. And everyone's like, oh, it's time to switch the channel. It's literally like, you know, you guys ever see Wall-E?
Yeah.
Remember, have you seen it, Asif?
Still have not. No.
And I saw it once, but it was
Haven't
pretty
seen
good.
it in a long
People
time,
talk about it
yeah.
like it's the fucking Matrix, dude. Like
It is. It's really
No,
good.
it's actually pretty
really
good,
good.
from
Yeah.
that perspective.
Wally's actually above the Matrix.
oh shit, dude.
I mean, there's a point where it's like humans are in this spaceship flying around forever or something. I'm not really sure because the
Like,
Earth is
Earth
destroyed
is-
or whatever.
Yeah, Earth is inhabitable, so they're like in a spaceship, and everyone's fat and in one of those like hovercraft, like
It's like a hovercraft lazy boy.
wheelchair. Yeah, and everyone's like obese as fuck. It's
But there's this,
disgusting.
there's this part that really sticks in my mind, which is they're like, they kind of have, I guess it's like a form of social media. It's like a way they can all communicate with each other through like their iPads or tablets or I don't know, whatever, their chairs. And there's a point where it's like they're all wearing like, I don't know, blue jumpsuits or whatever, right? And then it's like something comes up where it's like the color is now red, and everyone's like, oh, red, and someone changes to red, and then they all start changing their color to red.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like that's literally what we're seeing. It's like it's all about wearing a mask and staying safe and security and open borders and
Oh,
Black Lives
yes.
Matter. And it's like now it's about, oh, the Ukraine and Russia is evil and this and that, and like, oh, you know, they need to have closed borders and they should have border protection and all this. You're like, dude, you just fucking were saying the opposite before. Like, what happened to open borders?
Yeah.
It's just like in 1984 when they talk about it's like
Exactly.
the hate week, and then that like it culminates and then it all flips.
How many people have actually fucking read the book and processed it?
Probably.
And like,
Oh,
and they say like,
I
oh, we
think I
study
know all 20 of them.
we study history so it doesn't repeat. And it's like, you don't have to fucking study history. You could just read 1984.
Yeah.
I saw a quote from Hegel today. I don't know if it's actually from Hegel. I just saw it posted, and it said, we learn from history that we never learn from history.
That's so good.
That's a good one.
That's
It's true.
so good.
Because like it's happening right now. Now, what I think is interesting going just within the Ukraine-Russia context, because like we don't fucking know all the details, right? I mean, we've seen videos, I've seen lots of different perspectives. I think there's a lot of different aspects to it. But at the end of the day, like Drake was pointing out, it comes down to the fact that we have a world based on competition for survival, basic needs, like we've been fucking saying for on this podcast, however long since we started it, 2 years or
Since the
something.
beginning. Yes.
However long it's been, we've been saying it for a long time. This is the consequence of that. So for anybody to be like, oh, how dare they? It's like, you don't fucking care. It's just like whenever there's a bombing and somebody puts up the flag of the country on their profile and shit like that.
Right.
But yeah, there was a point I was going to make about it, but I don't know what else to say there. I don't know what else there is to say.
Well,
about it.
I find it interesting because you're right. Like the person doesn't actually care, because if they did care, they would take the little bit that they hear from us and can comprehend and say, huh, maybe you guys are right. Maybe we do have to actually change ourselves so we can change the system to prevent this thing from happening. Whether it's going to take us 5 years, 50 years, 500 years. Let me take this on for myself and let's fucking figure it out together. But what do 98% of people do? It's easier to just put up the fucking profile picture. Yeah.
You know what's weird about that is like, I remember first getting into like Techno Tutor and all the things that Cam has been saying since forever ago, like literally, long before we started this podcast. And the way that I would think about it or consider it would be like, yeah, but that's like some like fringe, like that. I kind of get what you're saying. Like, and it took me a while to start to see how we are just living for survival and how that's impacting us. But now it just seems so obvious, like, everything that's happening in the world. And it's really kind of scary, kind of funny that it's like exactly as Cam was predicting way back when, like the way he would share, like, oh, I just read this. Here's where that's going to end up. This is where we're headed. And I just thought like, that just is too much, man. That's crazy. And now it's exactly what's happening. And what I'm seeing now is, okay, I thought back then it was hard to see just because it wasn't happening in front of me, but still people are having a hard time just understanding that information, and just, it's so blatantly obvious. It's almost as if the system is giving us a warning of, hey, dumbass, like this is the red firelight coming on, like you have to change,
That is, well, I would say that is life. Reality is giving us that warning.
Yeah.
But the system, there's a war for our minds. Bernard said this a long time ago, right before he died. He said the war for the mind is on. Right. And what that means is there's a literal war for control of how you think, to control the inputs so that the outputs can be controlled. That obviously starts at the very beginning. Like we just had a child. Starts at the very beginning, right? Somebody texted me and they were like, because I was supposed to meet with them. They were going to come to the house and we had planned, and it was supposed to be that day he was born actually. So I texted him, I said, hey, not going to meet today. Baby was just born. The guy was like, oh yeah, no worries. He was like, his wife or whatever, she'd love to see a new baby whenever you're ready. And I'm just thinking, I don't fucking care. Will you want to see my baby? Meaning, and I'm not saying that in a rude way. It's just kind of like that's not a factor for me. You want to see the baby, don't care. Like I want to direct the inputs that he's exposed to.
That's so funny because new baby doesn't want to see your wife. Like,
right, it's like maybe he was just saying that to be polite, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, yeah, my child, it's like now, especially since it's our third child, it's like so apparent to me. Not that anything has changed. It's just my awareness of how
programmable.
You're unconsciously competent at raising this
Bernard
child.
used a word, and I'm trying to remember what it was because it was the perfect word for to describe it. It's like, it's not sensitive, and it's like if I could combine the word sensitive and precious. I think he said precious, but people have an emotional connotation to that word.
Yeah.
But it's like if you had something very fragile, like that fragile, precious, and sensitive. Put that into a word. I'm sure there's a word.
Precious, of great value, not to be wasted or treated carelessly.
And so it's like they're so sensitive to environment, to input. And I mean, fuck. Think about all the kids right now that are being born in the Ukraine in the middle of a war where there's like bombs and sirens and shit going off. They're fucked. They're fucked. One thing I wanted to add, because Drake, you kind of brought this up. It's like people should be waking up. And I've heard people say it. They said it about the trucker protests in Canada. Remember that?
Yeah.
That's over
Oh.
quick.
Oh,
What happened?
Is it still going? Who knows? Who gives a shit? Right?
2 years later, people are waiting.
You know, and the thing about this is what's fascinating about that point. It's like, all right, they're standing up, they're waking up. We're gonna stop these COVID restrictions, and then fucking Russia invades Ukraine. They're like, we don't care about your fucking little protests in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Like, so,
That's
but
why it's the system that has to change.
if
No
you
amount of
have
marching
the
people
eyes
against
to
the
see
street.
it, if you have the eyes to see it, you're like, wow, this is so blatant and obvious. But if you don't, the system will give you ways of seeing it and understanding it. It'll frame it for you.
See,
Yeah.
this
Right?
is what's so interesting. Like, you look in the Bible and there's these quotes of Jesus saying, like, for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, like, you'll get this. And then in the Bible, they also talk about, like, well, Satan will distract you. Like, Satan will lead you astray and give you like tricks and all this stuff. It's like,
Oh, that's great.
kind of like the fucking system is doing that to everyone. But
Well-
we underestimate how brainwashed and controlled we really are. Like
What-
how
what is-
inconsistent we are.
What does Satan mean? Right? It's like, I think the root of it is adversary. Right?
I'll look it up.
And like it means, well, if it's your adversary, you can be your own adversary.
Mhm.
And oftentimes we are. Like, think of how many people have destructive habits, destructive behaviors. And then when you try to stop them, they're fighting you, but really they're fighting themselves. You know what I mean? And it brings up this really, Mitch, you were talking about this on Friday about, what was it? Oh, about just what's the next step that you can take. But really with the starting point of when people see that they have to change, that they have to do something, they get overwhelmed because they see that there's so much that they have to do, right? And it brought up this question of, what are you allowing to develop, right? What are you letting develop? Because when you get to this point, this didn't just happen overnight. None of this has happened just like right here in this moment. This is something that we've allowed to develop. And so even, you know, we do this on a micro level of, you let your messages develop, you let your room develop into, you know, and then when it's time to actually go deal with those things, it's like overwhelming. It seems like too much or whatever, right? But the problem is that, you could get somebody else to deal with it for you, right? Like specifically in the case of like cleaning your home or whatever, you could get somebody else to clean your home. Or if you never learned to cook, you could get somebody else to cook for you. But that's not taking on the responsibility and actually caring for yourself, right? Like, think of this. Did I freeze?
No.
Okay, cool. Everyone just got really still real quick. But think of the point of like energy seeking people, like people who get their energy cleared or whatever. It's like, okay, you're getting your energy cleared, but that's not solving the point. The outcome is different. Sure, you may feel better in that moment, but that's not changing you. That's not actually caring for yourself. Even if you do it on a routine basis, you're not actually caring for yourself, because you're still the same person who's going to end up with that same developed shit within yourself, right? And you're going to have to keep doing that. So rather change.
Yeah, energy clearing is just like, I'm trying to like let go of the bad feelings for a moment of from all the shit that I've done recently.
Yeah.
You know
Exactly.
that saying that's like, people say like, oh, the only constant in life is change, right? Which it practically, like, yeah, that makes sense, because life is always changing, right? There's a progression of like seasons and cycles and all that kind of stuff. But then people don't want to actually direct that change and within themselves and take that responsibility. And then you see like people, for example, in the spiritual community, it's like it practically like, yeah, change it, you want to change and change is good, but then it's almost like you get lazy or complacent because you're like, well, no one else is changing, so why would I change? And then there, it's almost, and then also within spirituality, it's almost like a booby trap, where it's like now you're seeking energy as like a change within your life, but it's like not actually practically then doing anything. And then that's what you
Right.
see with like this Ukraine thing and all that kind of stuff. It's like you're just being manipulated through energy to like, oh, as you say, like, you know, it's a war for the mind. It's like, yeah, you're just being directed through energy to keep you in the same cycle and never actually take responsibility, because it's like, well, you know, fuck, like no one else is changing, so why should I?
People are being manipulated right now to take sides. And I see it, like even the way the algorithms on YouTube are suggesting videos to me, it's always like these videos that are making the Ukrainian people look heroic and victims, and it doesn't mean that there's no that's not an aggressive act, that what Russia's doing, or that there's no victims on either side, but it's trying to polarize people into picking a side instead of looking at the instead of looking at a solution. Because if everyone had their basic needs met, would there even be a conflict right now?
No.
There wouldn't even be a conflict, like, because they're fighting over literally pipelines. And then what was the
Energy.
response that the West said? They're going to cut them off from the SWIFT banking system.
Yeah.
It's another basic need. It's like everything is being manipulated.
Oh,
And
shit.
one thing I was looking at too is, you know, the way in which going back to that point where it's like, oh, people are going to wake up, you know, like the Canadian truckers, like people are starting to wake up and see how fucked things are. And it's like, you know,
No,
we'll
they're
see, we'll see what the development of this particular Russian, you know, thing is, what that's going to unfold to, but it's not going to end up with anybody waking up, because again, you only see it if you see it. And the people who generally see, they just see the alternative. They see what the system is giving you as the other side. It's like, oh, I'm a Democrat. Oh, I see through that because I'm a Republican. It's like, you're still the same fucking thing. What would be interesting, here's a prediction I have. What will be interesting is when inevitably, I'm assuming, China does decide that they're going to fucking take Taiwan, because clearly Biden's not going to fucking do anything about Russia. No one's going to do anything about it. So I would assume China is like thinking, well, we're just going to fucking take Taiwan. What'll be interesting to watch is how the mainstream media, which is simultaneously saying that Russia is an aggressor, terrible, doing all these bad things, just greedy, blah, 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 unprovoked, all this stuff. Watch how when China does go on after Taiwan, the same media is going to go, well, technically, if you look at the history, Taiwan was historically a part of China, and you know they don't actually have a claim to their territory, and you know China is just really it's actually they're going to help Taiwan and bring them to the, and it's all going to that's what's going to happen. You're going to see these two like fucking,
Somebody timestamp this shit.
like
Just cut it from 20
on that side, it actually doesn't
make a
make
note.
sense for right.
Whatever episode this is.
'cause
I mean,
it's
we'll
so
see.
fucking
I don't
true. It's
know,
so
but that's
true.
how I see it would play out. Like,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
that were to
exactly.
happen, that's what the response would be. Because what do you really think the fucking media is going to be like? Oh, this is terrible, an act by China. Da, da, da.
Yeah.
No, and what you're going to see is you're going to see us fighting against Russia and allies with China, and China and Russia are allies, and it's going to be this big fucking mind fuck. And if anyone thinks, oh, but it's going to wake everybody up, guys, how many fucking things have to happen for people to wake up? Like, we just had this whole fucking pandemic thing, and who woke up?
So I agree, in the mainstream, fucking nobody. But here's what's cool is what I'm seeing as people that are waking up that are specifically in this community. This is just an example of what I've seen over the past really like 3 months of people actually waking up. So we do a clubhouse here in Minneapolis, and it's awesome. We have one every other Saturday. We have another on Thursdays, all that. But I've seen that group grow, and it's not everyone in the group, but there's a handful of people that have found us. And then after even the first time, they're like, yo, what is this thing you guys are talking about, this techno tutor? Oh, okay, change the education system. That's awesome. They end up then getting techno tutor. Then they end up doing DIP. They listen to the podcast. Then I had a chat with one of them yesterday, and he's like, because in one of the clubhouses, I encouraged people, I said, hey, I know that some of us kind of run this, but really see this community as yours. Like, take the responsibility and see this as your own, like bring your friends. And we've had multiple people that are now bringing all of their friends from other groups to this. And they tell us this is the only thing that we've seen that actually makes sense. So thank you for doing this. And then they thank us, not just by saying, oh, thank you, this is great, right? That's like, pray for Ukraine. It's like, no, they're here to now take on their responsibility to now go out into their communities and bring people in. It's been amazing to see, because now we're starting to introduce the Equal Life Party, and we're talking about the political play and how we have some people in our community that are very committed to getting into office. It's awesome. And so it's in the grand scheme of things, someone might see that and be like, oh, well, that's just one group in one city and blah, blah, blah. But I counted it up the other day, and we have, in terms of clubhouses, I think our 25th one just launched in terms of self-perfected, because Ali Brightwell and I think Jude was there too. Shout out to those guys for doing
Shout
that now in New
out.
Jersey. So this is, in terms of the war for the mind, this is the counter.
But to your point about like, oh, that seems very small. It's like, it takes time.
Yeah.
Right. And because what we're talking about is reality. It's not a fad. It's not hype. It's not jump on a bandwagon. And this is the key point, because even if everybody wakes up, it's like, guys, think about the actual words wake up. When do you wake up?
In the morning after you've been sleeping.
Right. You wake up in the morning, right? Everybody wakes up in the morning. Okay. Then what do?
You have to go do shit.
Everybody wakes up, and you can do vastly different things with the time that you have that day. So people waking up is, the thing is, it's not that it's a bad thing if it helps people wake up, but it doesn't in itself change anything, because you can how many people, just imagine, woke up to the reality of, this thing is a hoax and this isn't real and there's a different side to this, and they're like, and that's why we have to put our faith in Jesus, because he's going to come back and then he's going to save the elect people who are going to, and you're like, hold on, that this is bullshit and this is bullshit and this is bullshit, and then you don't know that's bullshit. So they're still going to look at it within the programming that they have. So unless someone presents to them, look, here's the way forward, that person will be directed by this. It's got all these fucking trapdoors, and like Christine said, booby traps. It's like little tiny things in place that if you wake up, it's like, cool, you're awake, come with me, sir. And then you're over here fucking doing some bullshit that doesn't matter.
So funny.
Meditating to reduce the conflict in Ukraine.
Exactly.
Praying. I'm gonna pray. It's like, pray.
It's like,
that's the best you can do.
It's like Inception. You know how like you wake up, but you're still in another dream, and like that's what's happening. Like people are waking up, they're like, oh, I just woke up from that. That was a dream, and then like, oh, come with me, sir.
Yeah. Isn't this so funny? Because in the story of Jesus, they say that like Jesus came to earth, right? And he started saying these ideas of like, hey guys, we should wake up. We should treat our neighbors. We want to be treated. We should like, live by this certain way. And then everyone was like, well, some people were like, oh yeah, sure. And then they fucking killed him. And then of course, all the people that were then listening to him also just went right back into the matrix. So it's like, we've been through this before, but now isn't it funny that now it's us saying, hey, look guys, we should treat each other as we want to be treated, right? Have some basic principles. And people will then say shit like, no, only Jesus could do that. Or how dare you,
This is a really important point, because what people don't like when you watch, this is why we don't watch Disney movies with our kids, because there's a story, but then there's the story underneath it that's actually programming them. That part that you don't necessarily, you might be aware of it or you might not be, but it's the actual program that's occurring.
Like, for example, right? I haven't even fucking seen a Disney movie in a long time, but like the one where there's like a princess, and then she's like looking for love, and then she finally finds the prince, and in the end they get married. But it's like, why the fuck is there a prince and princess? Who are all the other people? There's no equality to it. Why are they so dead set on this one image of the partner? Like,
and why is every Disney character, their parents are dead?
Yeah, exactly.
So what was the point we were talking about right before that about
Waking up and then Jesus also.
oh, Jesus, right.
Yeah.
So the point that it's meta programming you for, let's say, right, is that if you stand up in the system, you'll be crucified.
Yes.
That's why when people look at it, they turn it into I can't do it.
Even
it can
though-
only be Jesus.
Even though Jesus fucking said, well, it's written, because who knows, right? Who even knows who was behind putting the Bible together? But there's that quote that made it through to the Bible that said, all these things that I did, you can do that and even greater. So for any of you who's like, oh, no, it's just on Jesus. It's like, how do you explain that line?
Because I'm really good at praying. Better than Jesus. I'm so good at it. Dude, do you know how many Facebook posts I made today about praying? How many did Jesus make? Jesus doesn't even have any likes.
I don't know, man. I've seen some of those pages.
Dude, my favorite ones. Remember Drake? Wasn't it you or it was Asif or somebody? Remember I was sending you that video of like the Dalai Lama? Do you remember that? It was like a long time, like several years ago. I think it was one of you guys. And it was like a live stream of the Dalai Lama doing it was Asif?
Yeah,
Was he
all
it?
these fucking live streams of people being like, save me. There's like thousands of people watching.
But the Dalai Lama, they were doing some weird fucking ritual of like just him sitting there and like these monks coming up to him and like showing him scrolls and him like saying weird shit. And it was like for like hours. And people
then
are just
just
on there
people
like,
in the
oh,
live
this
chat.
is such this. They were like, this is like so beautiful and all that. And it was like, what is happening right now?
Is
It was
this
just
funny?
so
Because the
weird.
Dalai Lama got the COVID vaccine, or at least claimed he did. It's like, why did you do that?
You know,
What is he afraid of? He's gonna literally reincarnate.
Dude, I have people like telling me how spiritual leaders are like gurus and all that stuff. Thank you. Are telling their followers to like get the first one, just the first one, not the second one. And it's like the test to see how awakened you are. And they were aspiring to be like, they were like, you know, and maybe at one point for me, I'm going to be at that point where, you know, I can do that. But right now I'm just like, fuck that vaccine.
Like I could be so spiritually advanced and high vibration that I can take the vaccine and it just won't even affect me.
And I told
Is that what they're trying to? Asif, this is not clear to me. What are they trying to fucking do?
That's all the data, because the whole point is I just tell you what to do and you fucking do it. That's all the data. A guru says, hey, you've been following me as a guru. Like it's a very specific, it's an Indian culture and very specific cultures where they follow a guru. Like you follow your priest or your imam or your, right?
Oh, just like Kevin Trudeau's doing with that one guy.
And not just one guy. Like there's a lot more than that. Cameron, you're laughing, eh?
No, there's like actually a guru that apparently Kevin Trudeau like follows.
Oh, yeah. Kevin's following a guru. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kevin's following a guru. Yes. And
I wonder if he got the shot.
Say that again, Cameron. Mitch.
I said, I wonder if Kevin got the shot.
Well, what he is doing is he released a training about following orders. And it was for people who are like, wait, why are, you know, certain people getting the shot and you're telling people to get the shot and all that stuff. And it's so beautiful, man. Like if you really just think about the level of manipulation, okay. It tells a story. And this is what this person was using to justify to me why it makes sense. That he's like, I can't really put it into words. I'm like, you can't put it into words because it's fucking bullshit. I told him that a little bit
Don't
later.
understand it.
But he's like, but you know, when you're at a certain point, then you'll be able to take the vaccine without like even like worrying about it, anything like that. He's like, I think it wouldn't have that much, maybe just like a little bit of effect. I'm like, look, well, sorry, before I like gave my perspective to him, and he was like, okay, yeah, fuck, man, you're right. I shouldn't take it. He was telling me this story. Christine's writing funny stuff in the chat. See, God, come on.
I didn't want to interrupt you. What are you gonna
You
say?
accept
Take
the
the
blessings
shot,
when they
Ken?
come, Asif.
Thank you for blessing me, see, God. So the story in following orders, and this is at the end of the day, the reason the pandemic is occurring, the reason why if the news says wear pink, you'll wear pink.
Did you see that video I sent you, Asif, with the Russian soldiers?
Yeah, like
the-
the
from the
42nd
tank,
one.
The tank, they
Uh-huh.
like their tank ran out of gas or something apparently, and like there's these two Russian soldiers, and one's got like the weird helmet gear stuff on. He's like obviously the driver of the tank, and then there's like the other guy who's maybe like the captain of it or something. And how old do you think those guys were?
How old? Probably like
25.
19.
No, I'm asking Asif.
Yeah, I put on the close cap. It said 25, I think.
They're 20, like they look like they're fucking 18 to me. You know what I mean? But they're young.
Yeah, it's like 20. Yeah,
Like
20
they're young, and he's just like, and they're just like standing there like while they're like being grilled by whoever's talking to them on the camera, you know, just following orders.
Jeez.
Anyways,
Well, now I
Isn't
feel
it
the blood.
weird how close you can get to the combat though? Like everyone's just got their phones during this like war, you know? I've seen so many videos of like guys like in the plane, just like, you know.
but it's
doing
weird.
a-
They're always titled weird stuff like
yeah.
ace fighter, Ukrainian ace like takes down, you know, fighter jet, and then you watch it and it's just a plane goes, and you're like, that's not destroyed Ukrainian column of tanks or something, and there's just like some tanks sitting on the street, and you're like, okay, like
It's
this
just
is the level
footage
of
from
fucking
Call of Duty.
exploitation that's going on right now.
It's just
So-
like literally footage from a Call of Duty video
Right.
game.
It's like a 360 no scope Ukrainian.
The
Oh
guy's
my
like
God.
literally like,
let me bridge this. Let me bridge it all together. Okay. Following orders. If you're a soldier and you find yourself in front of an enemy soldier, and the general says, shoot that motherfucker, kill that enemy, kill him. Okay, this is the context of people questioning, hey, why are certain gurus saying to take the vaccine and things like that? Right? Why did you say to other people to take the vaccine, for example? And he said, the general can see more than you. The general who's telling you to take the vaccine, or sorry, to shoot the enemy, it's like, what are you going to do in that moment? Not shoot the enemy? And you're like, fuck, that's so true, man. Like, you know, and he's making this point about how the general, he sees more. You have to trust that the general sees more. And first thing you have to ask yourself is, why are you even in that position? Right? You always give the truth to be like, okay, yeah, that's fucking valid, of course, right? And
hold on, but it's like, but really, why are you in that position? That's what you should be asking yourself.
That's
Not
what I'm
going
saying.
further.
Yeah,
but
That's what
yeah.
I'm saying, right? But that's
Okay.
like the first thing you're like, oh, that makes sense. And then it's like, okay, but now here's the truth. But really, no, the truth was in the fucking first part, right? The truth is the general can see more of the stuff. And what I told this person was like, look, I'm not a fucking soldier. I'm the fucking general. And that's who you should be too. And this is what it comes back to. When you have weak men guiding society, guiding relationships, guiding families, guiding their own lives as weak men, what weak men do is they blame. The modus operandi is blame. Because what's the opposite of blame? It's what a real man would do. What's the opposite of blame?
Take responsibility.
Take responsibility.
Figure it out.
What a weak man needs is somebody else to do it for him. That's why you can give a weak man 100 reasons to do something, and they'll find one reason not to do it because they're a fucking pussy. And we have to look at ourselves every day. What's the thing that we're resisting?
Mhm.
Because when you have weak men, look at society. This is the product of weak men. It's funny because the idea of alpha is you're macho and you're willing to kill for your country and all this shit. Think about that. That would be like, oh, those are the real men who are out on the front line protecting. No, those are fucking slaves.
Yeah.
Those are slaves. And everything about you got programmed to think about everything in terms of slavery. That's what blame is. That's thinking that somebody else has more power than you. And practically speaking, They might, like in the system, somebody else might literally have more power than you. But does that entice you to step up to the same level of power that they have? Or does that make you think, oh, so it's their fault and I just have to go like jerk off and play video games and try to make the best out of what I have and not change?
You know what? That just reminded me. One time I was at the Copes, and Avery said to me, he asked me about laziness. What do I think laziness is? Right? Because you're saying it like really clearly right now, as far as, you know, we think of this macho guy who can go out and kill people, whatever, you know, we think of that as being alpha, right? But the reality is they're just a slave. And slaves work really hard, right? But they're also lazy. And what I mean by that is laziness is the abdication of self-responsibility, because they don't take any self-responsibility. They can't lead themselves. So it's not to say they're not doing a bunch of hard work, but they're not doing the right work of stopping the weakness within themselves of, why does somebody else have to take the responsibility to tell you who to shoot or whatever?
Yeah, what to do. Yeah.
You
What's
know,
your purpose?
exactly. Like that is your responsibility to take. That's why we're in this position, because we have a bunch of lazy people, in the sense that your thinking is lazy. Your responsibility, your self-direction is lazy.
You know, on the that emotional guidance thing, right?
Mhm.
It gave like, you know, the top of being blissed out, coked out, right? I call it coked out because I always find it so funny.
Real
And-
enlightenment.
Real enlightenment. Yeah. Sorry, my bad. Like
The
like
top
Mitch,
of the vibrational scale.
like Mitch, every time I think of enlightenment now, I think of that conversation that we had the first day that we met, kind of thing. Of that guy that you're with, that you're like, but he's enlightened, but he's a fucking asshole and like has no
You know,
integrity.
spirituality, this whole thing is the fucking result of like weak men and women that are way out of balance. It's like feminism. I've said this before, like only a fucking childless woman
How many male
would envision the whole universe as a giant vibrator.
How many male tarot card readers do you have?
How
Now,
many
They're
male tarot
all
card readers
honestly,
are there?
they're all like gay. The ones that are like tarot readers. I've only ever seen gay guys be tarot readers, other than women, of course.
The essence of tarot cards
Okay.
is fucking blame.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
oh, that's a great point.
And you always see people like try to act like, oh, I use it to like da da da, and you're like, no, you're just trying to find like the secret reasoning behind why things are the way they are for you.
Or astrology.
Astrology, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Instead
Like,
of
how do
just
you actually
fucking
use it
directing
to
it.
understand yourself and then fucking change something? I want to just add something real quick. Remember last night when we were texting, Asif, about and you said that time when we were chatting at your house, I think it was, and there was some things I was sharing that like I wish I had known or something like that about like being a father or whatever.
Mhm.
I was just thinking about one of those things as being a man. Like, what is one of those things that I wish I knew? And I really think this will help those who find themselves stuck, not doing anything, playing video games, watching their life and marriage fall to shit, or their girlfriend getting pissed off at them and slowly nagging
Or
them
staying
more and
single
more,
and staying fucked and
staying
making
single,
excuses.
not doing anything,
Living at
like,
home.
like
living
if
with
you
mama.
are in a relationship, if you're married or you're single or you have a girlfriend, or whether you're single and you're playing video games all day, your days are numbered in that relationship or ever getting a relationship. And even though you might continue the relationship, it'll just turn into something that you'll wish you could escape from, which is why you're playing the video games anyways. You're trying to escape. But you know, like when I was younger, I was fortunate for some reason that I was always put into things that most people wouldn't. Like I went to a very elite university, for example. But even there, it's like I just wanted to play video games all day. I didn't want to do anything, right? And when I left that university and I went back to Houston and I went to a different university, and I had my own place. I just wanted to play video games and watch Adult Swim all day. Right. And what I wish I had known, although obviously someone just telling you this, if they had just told me this, I probably wouldn't have got it. But I also didn't have these tools that we have now. So this is the first people who are actually able to hear me, right? You need to understand that as a man, you were not taught how to be a man. And it's not something you're just going to randomly figure out. And you're not going to randomly figure it out by continuing to do what you're doing. You need to understand that the way to become a man is to start taking responsibility for the things that you think are too massive to change. Like yesterday, I came home from doing some meetings or something. And obviously Katie, she just had a baby, we talked about. So mostly I'm staying at home right now, just in the first week or so while she's like, her body's recovering, right? So she's mostly in bed with the baby, but I'll leave for a little bit to do something like this, right? And the kids will be there and doing whatever they're doing, right? So it's a little bit unstable, but not totally. Like, I mean, you'd be surprised how stable it is, even with Katie mostly in bed, because the kids have sort of developed some self-responsibility. But anyways, I came home yesterday and Max had taken, like, those packets of computer paper, like those,
like a
Yeah.
ream, like a
like
blank
the
paper.
printer paper, like
blank paper.
I would say box, but it's like a paper.
A ream.
package.
It's a ream.
Ream, yeah. He took a ream of it, and like I posted a picture on my Facebook. It was like scattered everywhere, all over the tile floor, like in what we call like our dining room area, right? Like all over, right?
Yeah.
And he was just laying on top of it, and he was writing and drawing stuff. And it was so funny because I was looking at it later, and he had written my name a few times. He had written his name, and it's like he was writing it, and it would just scroll onto the next page that was like overlapped. It was like M and then continue AX, or like part of the M and the X on the, like he was just like doing whatever he's doing, right? Because no one's there. Like if we had been there, we'd have been like, hey, hold on, let's not scatter those around, or maybe we wouldn't have cared. It just depends on the context, right? So anyways, I came home and I saw that, and I was just like, what are you drawing, Max? And he like shows me this picture he drew. I'll show you guys on here. You might have already seen it. But he shows me this picture he drew, and he said, it's a picture of me. I'm drawing a picture of me.
It's not focusing.
You can kind of see. You can see it's like a head on a body. Is he just smiling?
Move it to the left. Yeah.
Probably just some glare. It's just there we go.
Oh,
There it is.
Yeah. You can see it now.
That's it, right? It's just a little kid's drawing of like a little person, right? It's
Yeah.
pretty cute. So like, now this is not what the point of my story was, but imagine a parent who's just like, God damn it, you've got all this paper everywhere. I didn't do any of that. I was just like, oh, cool. I immediately was like, can I see that drawing? That's really good. Like that looks a lot, it's a cool drawing. Like you did a great job. Look at how you did the hair. Like, can I take a picture of it? I want to show Katie. I want to show everybody. And then after a while, like all that paper's there. And I know Max wanted to play cash flow later, right? He was like, can we play cash flow? And I was like, well, I'm not going to play cash flow until we clean up all this paper off the ground, because we can't just leave it here. Okay. He was like looking at it like, well, I don't want to clean all that up. And I was like, I understand, but you put it there. Right. So here's a suggestion. I was like, you can make it a game for yourself. You can do whatever you want. Cindy, you can do it too if you want to help Max pick it up. But you could pile it up in the chair. And then what I'll do is I'll get the trash can, and then we can dump it in, or put it into the trash can and dump that into a big trash bag or whatever. But I'm not going to pick it up for you. Right. And at first he wasn't really resisting it. He was just like, okay. And then later I came back in the room and he was sitting at the table reading. And I was just like, hey, Max, remember to clean up that paper. Right. And he was like, oh, okay. He wasn't like, no, I'm not going to do it. It's just like, oh, okay. And then after a little bit, I come back and he's like, got stuff like stacked up on there. And then he's like putting it into the trash can. And then he got most of it done, but there was still a little bit left. And I reminded him, hey, you have to clean up all of it before we do anything, before we play that game you want to play. And eventually he picked it all up. Like I didn't have to yell at him, force him or anything. I didn't help him except to like dump it into the big trash bag or whatever. And so it's like, I'm not allowing him to get away with just, well, fuck that. I don't want to do it. And the other point, the bigger point I wanted to make was in the beginning, and it's what I told him. I said, I know it looks like a lot, because he was like, it seems like a lot. And I was like, yeah, but it's just a matter of time. If you keep picking them up and stacking them and put them in a place where you're not just scattering them about again, you'll eventually get all of it. It might take some time, but you'll get it. It's a finite amount. And that's really what these guys need to understand is like, you don't know how to build a business. You don't know how to take any level of responsibility because you weren't taught. Most of you probably didn't even have a father in the picture. And even if you did have a father, it may have only helped a little bit because your father was just a fucking soldier. He was just a slave. He was just following orders. You know what the fuck he was doing. And he at least showed you maybe some level of self-responsibility, but he didn't show you the full level of how to actually stand up as a man and change this world. And so you might feel like you've bitten off more than you could chew. Right? But like, what does Kevin say? How do you eat an elephant? Of course, not the only person to say it. Right?
Also, why are we eating elephants?
Dude, you gotta trust me. They taste amazing.
Oh, okay.
But my point is one bite at a time, right? You do it one bite at a time, one breath at a time. You use your techno-tutor one day at a time. You write one day at a time. You forgive yourself one moment at a time. And those moments will accumulate. But if you don't start changing those points and start taking that responsibility, those moments are going to accumulate and eventually you're going to have a big mess. And that's every person who's sitting there wallowing, feeling depressed, allowing themselves to just play video games all day. Then I want you to really, really look deep within yourself and like walk through that apathy that you have and look at the fucking world. And like, imagine you're sitting in your room playing video games and then a fucking air raid siren goes off and your town is literally being bombed. Like there are soldiers in the street and they're coming and they're like, oh, look, you're 20 years old. Here's an AK-47. You're fighting now. Don't fucking think it won't happen. Like, do you want to have to experience that to wake up? And guess what happens when you wake up? Is it suddenly like, okay. All right, I woke up now. Now it's okay, right? Like, no, you're waking up because you're realizing what you did and what you should have done. And guess what? You still have to go fucking hold the AK-47 and fight.
That's like
called consequence.
That's like when you're having a dream, you pee the bed, and you wake up and you're like, wait, I'm waking up. Well,
yeah,
too
it's
late.
like your bed's still wet.
Bed.
Now you got to change the sheets, and you should have changed the sheets before. You should have gone and pissed before you went to bed.
Exactly.
So my point is, I don't know what it's going to take. You can do it the hard way, or you can do it the really hard way. That's it. There's no easy way. There's the hard way or the really hard way. The really hard way is when you experience a consequence, and then you have to deal with the fact that you can't change certain things.
Yeah.
And like the war that we're seeing right now is a consequence. Like, man, imagine if the world after this pandemic had been like, you know what, we really need to fucking get together and all start sorting out like how to treat everyone and get everyone what they really basically need. Instead, they were like, nah, we're still going to just like not let people have access to their basic needs and shit. And we're still going to like threaten people and put bases here and there and like not negotiate, not talk and not communicate. What do you think is the consequence of that? So all of this that we're seeing in the big picture is exactly what Asif said. It's weak men. You might say, well, what do I have to do with Ukraine? It's like, this is because of generations of this occurring. So every day you spend still, the thing is, at the level we're at now, look at the kind of weapons that are existing now. This is like game over. We have to stand up. And protesting, do you think protesting is going to fucking work?
Never has and it never will.
It's not going to work. In fact, in Moscow or in Russia, they're just like, no, you're not allowed to protest. We're in a war. Fuck you. And you might think like, oh, but that's because he's a dictator. They did it in fucking Canada.
Yeah.
And then Justin Trudeau, he's kind of brilliant. He made them look like idiots. Because he like declared all these emergency powers and they're like, how dare you? He wants these powers forever. He's a dictator. And then he was like, no, we're getting rid of him. We don't need him anymore. It was just for that. Haha. Gotcha. Now you look like idiots. And it's funny because it's like, another thing too about protesting. Do you want protesting to work?
No.
Because you might think like, oh, it's the way we change things. Like, okay, well, then when Black Lives Matter comes in and they're doing their protests so that they'll teach your kids about fucking cultural Marxism and shit like that in schools and critical race theory. Is that what you want? They protest until they get that curriculum in the school. You want everyone just to protest until they get what they want? That's
Like
not how
having
you fucking change
tantrums.
things. Right. It's just like having a tantrum. I mean,
Yeah.
you certainly wouldn't allow your child to do that. Like I tell my children, that is not an effective expression. It's not going to change what I'm doing. I'm not going to control whether you cry or this or that, but you understand it's not going to change anything. So the best way is to communicate with me effectively. Stabilize yourself, breathe, stop crying for a moment when you're ready, and then communicate with me. And Seneca's like, Cameron, could you get me some chocolate milk? I'm like, yes, of course. Let's go. You can help me. You want to help me? Sure. Okay. It's like you didn't need to immediately start crying because I didn't already know you wanted chocolate milk. How the fuck would I know? Communicate with me.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah,
So
that's great.
all of this comes back to you as an individual. And the reality is nobody can fucking help you. When you're in a state of immaturity, when you're choosing immaturity, when you physically have the faculties, you have the body, you have your brain is developed enough where you can take responsibility, and you choose not to, you're fucked. You're fucked, and you're fucking over whoever is around you. At the end of the day, Cameron's going to move forward. Mitchell's going to move forward. Asif's going to move forward. Drake's going to move forward. Everybody else around you is going to move forward, including the person that whoever you're blaming for your bullshit, they're going to still move forward. You're going to be fucked. Understand the word maturity. Maturity in the context of investment. When an investment reaches maturity is when it's supposed to pay back.
Say it again. Say it again.
Jake always gets me hyped, dude. But that's what the definition of a loan maturing is. It's when it's time to pay back the interest, pay back that loan. Life has invested into you. You invested into yourself.
Dude, even consider like when an animal is mature, it can have offspring.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So the point here is just to realize you're now, the fact that you're acting immaturely, where you're not taking responsibility and you're blaming, that proves that you have a choice. That proves that you can do whatever the fuck you want. We're suggesting don't just do what you want. Because what you want right now is programmed to fucking destroy you. Like every ounce of you was programmed to ruin yourself. Because it was programmed by the system.
This.
Yeah.
And like, what's going to happen if you're fucking sitting there playing video games all day and your girlfriend is like, all right, you know what? Fuck you, loser. I'm out of here. Because she's watching a bunch of other men step up and take responsibility. And she's like, you know what? Those guys are actually going somewhere. Let me go talk to them. Because I've seen that happen. And then what? You're going to sit there and play video games all day until what? This is the perfect person that the elite, that are currently the elite, that are the current fucking people in positions where they decide how systems work, like whether Putin invades Ukraine or not. These are the exact places they want men at. Because it's like, you know what? Oh, wow, fuck, I haven't been doing anything. I don't have any money. I don't know what to do. It's like, hey, look, we'll just give you some. Just keep sitting there and take your vaccine every month and just keep going and don't worry about it. You'll never own anything, but it's fine. Everything's going to work out. Like this, you guys understand like what we're seeing right now is just the next part of the Great Reset plan? Of course, he's not going to write in the Great Reset, oh yeah, and then we're going to have a world war so we can like decimate everybody's fucking wealth and basically put everyone in a situation where they're fucking just glad for any scraps we give them. Of course, they're not going to say that. They're going to say it's equity and and justice and all this stuff. This is just the next part. And men have to now stand up. Because if you don't, guess what? You're going to be forced to stand up and you're going to be forced to go march. Or you're going to be forced to sit there and never be able to stand up again. Somebody said, I heard this quote, you know that, you ever heard that statement? I'd rather die on my knee. I'd rather
Live on my feet than die on my knees.
Yeah.
I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you reverse that statement?
I'd rather live on my feet than die on my knees. Or-
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's actually live, stand up and live for real. Like what many men are missing. And I was missing this too, because I wasn't taught how to actually stand up and be a real man. And real man doesn't mean macho, masculine, any of these particular things. It's like, you are a man. You're a fucking human man. You're a man. That's what you are. Like, you're this fucking being that exists, that is the most powerful thing that exists in reality. And you're sitting there going, I just want to play video games. I just want someone to feed me a reality.
Yeah.
When you
Or I just
have
wanna find an
everything,
excuse.
right? And you don't realize how much you have to give and that you can receive based on that. Like, your life can be fucking amazing if you just stand up. But there's a point where someone else can't do certain things for you. It has to come from you because you're the creator. If someone else does it for you, it's not going to be what you want. Just like, sitting there playing video games all day, you just feel like a little whiny, sad little baby. You don't feel good about it. You just get a little bit of adrenaline rush going in your heart, get excited, just like when you watch porn for a second and then you feel ashamed. It's
And
not
here's
worth it.
here's the funny part about that. It's like, as you're playing the video games, there's this whole thing about NPCs, right? It's like NPCs are just mulling about doing whatever. They're just programmed, but you're the main
Can you just
character.
explain what that is to someone?
An
like
NPC
a
is a non-playable character, I believe.
Non-fungible or no, wait.
Tokens.
No. Those are the good things, Cameron. We need more of those.
Oh yes.
Those
But
are
an
gonna
NPC
save it.
is a non-playable character where they're just there serving their purpose, like just functionally, of like being the bank teller that you can talk to and get your shit from them and go on with your life because you're the main character.
Hello, traveler.
Exactly, right? They're just here to forward the story of the main character. And they don't really do anything. They just create background. But when you are in a video game, that's what you are in real life. In the video game, you're the main character. In real life, you're the fucking NPC.
Yeah, because you're just sitting there like, you're like not doing anything.
Yeah, you've decided like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be an NPC. So the point of this is to realize this. The number one ego move is isolation. This became a very quick red flag for me because I had to go through this multiple times. Right. And when I say had to, I just mean because I didn't have anybody to support me. I mean, I was too stupid. I was programmed ineffectively, but I wasn't taking responsibility for it. That's why I had to go through it. Now, what I'm saying is I would stop attending meetings. I would stop talking to Cameron, stop talking to anybody, thinking that that's going to make things better. That is not a solution. Because whoever's listening to this and you're going through this situation right now, you versus your ego, you will lose every fucking time because you're literally losing right now because your ego is the system. And the reason you're upset is because you're losing against the system. So you're blaming the system. That's your fucking ego. And your ego's telling you, don't reach out. Don't talk to someone. What my suggestion, just as we wrap this, is the only thing you can do is taking more responsibility. That's the only thing you can ever do. And this is as a man or a woman. It does not matter. The only thing that you can do is look at how you can take responsibility for your situation and stop blaming. Until that point comes, you're fucked. You're totally fucked.
And for anyone who's so fucked you can't understand what Asif is saying, let me make it really simple. One, if you don't have a partner right now in a thriving relationship, do that. One, if you have kids and you're not educating them with TechnoTutor, do that. If you don't have a business of your own, do that. Where you're creating financial freedom for yourself, right? Do that. If you don't have a home that you own, go do that. Like, those are 4 practical steps, right? If you don't have kids yet, get your partner and then go have kids. And if you're too old or you can't or whatever, like, okay, just look at the other points. But, and if you're not using your TechnoTutor every day, doing your writing, reading the blogs every day, if you're not coming on every self-perfected hangout, if you're not distributing TechnoTutor, hitting your numbers, just go do that.
And for those people who are in the consequences, where you got some of that shit, but then you fell. You got into a relationship, awesome, man. I got married and then you fell. For you, you just need to look at, who can I reach out to support me? because if you don't do that, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to make it through your own damn mind because it's the thing that's fucking you in your ass right now. So my suggestion is to reach out. That has been the solution for me, where then I was able to see my blind spots just by talking to other people. And I'm like, fuck, I'm fucking my own life up. Damn it. And then I started to change and take responsibility and do everything that Mitchell suggested, where now I'm like, God damn, I can't believe I was that retarded before. But I understand it. I have empathy for it. That's why we're making this. Just know that at the end of the day, with or without you, we're going to move forward. Right? We're going to keep doing these podcasts. We're going to keep growing. We have a Technotutor event coming up, which is going to be crazy. That's going to be wild, which we'll end up talking more about later. And we're going to keep networking with each other to grow to the next step. Mitchell and Jess, you guys are coming to Florida. That's going to be fucking epic. Going to see Owen and Chantal. You guys are going to come here, hang out. Christine, Drake, me, Alan, Dylan's here now. For those of you who don't know, Dylan's a new distributor and he's moving to Orlando. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And he was hanging out, got to meet him in person. Great person. Really happy to see the level of people that we're attracting with what we're doing. And then I think you guys are going to visit the Spehars as well. So my point is we're going to keep meeting in person and supporting one another to get to the highest levels possible. And if that is what you want, reach out, talk, share this, attend those hangouts because those keep getting spicier and spicier. We get like 80, 85 people on the last one. Keeps going, right? It's pretty awesome. So other than that, any final thoughts, guys? We'll wrap it up.
I think that's good. Let's wrap it up there.
Cool.
Cue the intro.
Shout
All
out
right.
to the 14 people that watched live today. That's all. Like,
Shout out.
subscribe.
and give Sea God a thank you for being the Sea God.
Pray to her. Pray to her. She will end the war in Ukraine.
Yeah. Sea God.
You can't see,
Help
but
us.
I'm doing the sign of the cross on Ukraine right now.
No, I just do this. This is the new cross. Let's see.
Wait, hold on. Be careful. The Russians are the Christians.
Oh shit.
Ah!
Oh shit, dude.
All right.
All
Thanks
right.
a lot. See God.
See you later,
Bye,
everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.